Okay, Aki Scrap Chomper. 1 mana, 1/1, 2 and tap, sacrifice artifact or land, draw a card. Beamtown Beatstick. 1 mana, equipped creature gets +1/+0 and has menace. Whenever equipped creature deals combat damage to a player or battle, create a treasure token, equip 2. That is pretty good in draft, holy moly. Bloodfeather Phoenix. 2 mana, 2/2 flying, can't block. Whenever an instant or sorcery you control deals damage to an opponent or battle, you may pay red. If you do, return Bloodfeather Phoenix from your graveyard to the battlefield and it gains haste. That is interesting. 2 mana, 2/2 flyer is quite good. Recurring from the graveyard for 1 mana is really good. I think I mean, it's not a huge downside, I guess, in mono red to have a creature that doesn't have haste on turn 2, just because it will have haste when it dies. So we'll probably see some play in mono red. I don't think the card is broken, but it's pretty good. Burning Sun's Fury. 2 mana Convoke. 2 mana Convoke. Up to 2 target creatures each get +2/+0 and gain haste until end of turn. Chandra Hope's Beacon. 6 mana. Whenever you cast an instant or sorcery, copy it. You may choose new targets for the copy. This ability triggers only once each turn. Okay. Plus add 2 mana in any combination of colors. Yep. That's decent with the static, I guess. Exile the top 5 cards of your library for +1 until the end of your next turn. You may cast an instant or sorcery. So only one. So +1, look at top 5. Well, exile top 5 and cast 1 potentially. Most likely cast 1. But you won't have that good of a choice, I think. Depending on top 5, you'd probably get like 2 max, probably 2 choices. 2 to 3. So pretty good. And then -X. Well, because it's a plus, it's good. -X. Chandra deals X damage to up to 2 targets. That's really good. So, Solid Planeswalker has an ability that can impact the board, and has an ability that can gain you card advantage the turn it comes down. So, overall, good. 6 mana, expensive. I do not think, unless there's a ramp deck, yeah, only in a ramp deck, I think. If you're just playing a regular deck, you would not play this, I think, because for 6 mana, it's just not impactful enough. It's gonna be a win more kind of card, so usually those are not great for that mana cost. But it's a cool card. But it probably won't see much play. I don't know. City on Fire. 7 mana Convoke. If a source, so it's an enchantment. If a source you control would deal damage to a permanent or player, it deals triple that damage instead. So how much mana would you want to pay for this? I think at 5 mana it would be a decent card, but maybe not standard playable. Oh no, if a source you control. Okay, so that would be good for 5 mana. It's not just instants and sorceries. It's not even a red source, any source. That's a good card. I think the issue with it is that if we have enough cards that can interact with enchantments, this is kind of irrelevant. It still plays pretty heavily into counter magic. In current standard, it would not see play, but if the meta does slow down, I think it has a chance because of how powerful it is. I think the non-bow with it is that you have to convoke, which means that you can't attack with those creatures immediately, so you're technically not gonna gain value off of it the turn it comes down, which is a little bit unfortunate in current standard. Most of the things you want to play are things that impact the board immediately, and I do not think this does that. So if standard is as fast as it is right now, this will not see play. If it becomes slower, then this has a chance. But either way, it's still like a very expensive spell that doesn't really do much the turn it comes down. So we'll see. Coming in hat, 1 mana, +1 +0, first strike, scry 1. Itali, Primal Conquer, 7 mana, 7/7, trample. When enters the battlefield, each player exiles cards from the top of their library until they exile a non-land card. You may cast any number of spells from among the non-land cards exiled this way without paying their mana cost. So you get to play 1 card from your opponents, the first one that shows up, well, 1 non-land card from your opponent and 1 card from yourself. So essentially it comes in and you basically draw 2. But you draw 2 non-land cards, so it's actually really good, but it's 7 mana. That's pretty expensive. In a ramp deck, this is kind of really good, but still getting a card from your opponent's deck is not necessarily good, because sometimes you'll be playing against like a control deck, you'll top deck, like you'll get like a removal spell or a sweeper, which you can't cast. So overall clunky, expensive, good value, but let's see what the 9 in green Phyrexian transform only as a sorcery and becomes trample indestructible. When it deals combat damage to a player, they get that many poison counters, and it becomes an 11/11, which is pretty good, but 10 mana is way too high, and I don't think this is ever going to be relevant, so yeah, a little bit too clunky, I think. Fearless Scald, 5 mana, 3/2 double strike back of 1. Interesting, but not interesting enough. 2 mana, 1/2. Furnace Gremlin gets +1 +0 for 2 mana until end of turn. When it dies, incubate X, where X is its power. Furnace Host Charger. Furnace Host Charger, 6 mana, 5/5 haste. Mana cycling. Yeah. I don't know why I read that common. 3 mana, gain control of target creature until end of turn. Untap that creature until end of turn, it gains haste, and whenever it deals combat damage to a player or battle, create a treasure token. Wow. This is very good. This is one of the best ones I've seen for 3 mana. So it is just kind of straight up power creep. And the fact that this is technically 2 mana is really insane. This will see some play. It will probably not see play immediately. But what I mean is that when a deck wants this kind of effect, this will be the card for it. I don't think there's anything better. So it requires a deck to exist that would want an effect like this. But if that deck does exist, then this is a good card. This is the best card for that deck. Hanger's Grounder. 3 mana, 2/1 backup 1. Whenever this creature becomes tapped, you may discard a card. If you do, draw a card. No. I mean, for draft, that's pretty good. 3 mana, 2/3 haste. I don't think I need to read this. Yep, that is just a draft card. So it transforms into a 3/4. Okay. Into the Fire. 3 mana, choose 1. Into the Fire deals 2 damage to each creature, planeswalker, and battle. Okay, the fact that it deals damage to battles is really good. Put any number of cards from your hand on the bottom of your library, then draw that many cards +1. So flexibility, very good. Very good. That's a sweeper and also card looting, because those two effects are very versatile. Those kind of effects are very narrow as well, but they both impact the game in a very specific and powerful way. I think the issue is 2 damage is a little bit low, but with all these convoke cards, we might be going into a token meta, and in that case, this is absolutely fantastic, and this will see play over Brotherhood's End probably, if that is specifically the case. Otherwise, I think unfortunately, Brotherhood's End is still the better card, just because 3 damage is more relevant, and if you want this type of effect, usually it's for the sweeper and not for the looting, because looting is more of like a it's more of like a convenience type of thing. It's not the effect that you want. You primarily want the sweeper. Now, if this was instant, I would say this is better than Brother's End, but without that, I think this will only be better than Brother's End if everybody's playing 1/1 tokens, which is possible. So we'll have to see. Invasion of Kaldheim. 4 mana battle. 4 defense counters or whatever you call that. I'm just gonna call it life point. 4 life. The thing has 4 life. You have to deal 4 damage to it. When Invasion of Kaldheim enters the battlefield, exile all cards from your hand and draw that many cards. Until the end of your next turn, you may play cards exile this way. Interesting. So it's technically just draw as many cards as you want as long as you can cast them next turn. But you have to have the cards in your hand to activate this effect. So it is very weird. This kind of effect is too hard to evaluate. I have no idea. I think it's a little bit underwhelming, but depends what the backside is. Enchantment, discard a land. It deals 2 damage to any target. Whenever you discard a land card, exile the top card of your library. You may play that card this turn. Okay, that is pretty good. I think this card is good. The prerequisite. So I think this is not going to be a creature deck. This is going to be a spell-based, damage-based, like sorcery instant deck with a bunch of sweepers. And the goal is to deal 4 damage to this with direct damage, basically. And my biggest question is, do we have a spell that deals 4 damage in red? Or can we combo this card with like another color? It's a little bit complicated. Maybe like, I don't know. I think this is too hard for me to evaluate right now. But working on the assumption that there is a card that can deal 4 damage to this, then I would say this card is very good. And there might be a deck that is built around this. There's just like a instant and sorcery spam deck. And that this card would be perfect in that deck. So we'll see if there's like a is it spells or something. But yeah. Oh, it's exile all cards from your hand. Okay, never mind. Wait. Exile all cards from your hand. Well, I mean, even in that case, I don't think it makes the card like that much worse. It is a little bit worse. It is a little bit worse. I thought you could choose how many you wanted to redraw or exile. The fact that you can't is a little bit awkward, so that means this deck would be like a really spammy, like early, like cheap spell deck. I think it's way too hard to evaluate. This is an archetype that has not seen play in a long time. And for it to make a comeback, it would have to be something truly special. So if I had to guess, I would say that there will be no deck that can use this. But it's a very strong card in that archetype. Now, we just have to wait and see if there's enough support for this archetype. But as it stands, without having seen all the red cards, I can't say for sure. Is there enough value to attack the battle over the opponent's life? Yes, for that card, yeah. But you're not going to be attacking. I don't think that deck has any creatures, or maybe I'm just wrong. Maybe maybe that card is supposed to be played in a creature deck. That's also a possibility. Maybe you play it in a creature deck and then it allows you to like not flood by discarding your lands and then redrawing off the top for like haste creatures. It's kind of interesting. I just don't really know what deck could possibly afford to do that. No idea. It's too hard to evaluate. The card is like powerful. That's all I know for sure. The card is really powerful, but I have no clue if it fits into any deck or not. It's way too hard to evaluate. Invasion of Karsus, 4 mana, sweeper, 4 mana, 4 toughness battle, so 4 life total. When Invasion of Karsus enters the battlefield, deals 3 to each creature and planeswalker. And if you deal 4 to it, you will get a Refraction Elemental. Ward, pay 2 life. Whenever you cast a red spell, whenever you cast a spell, whenever you cast a spell, Refraction Elemental deals 2 damage to each opponent. That's not great. So the issue with this card is that the creature is not really something that you want in this deck. Like, if you want a sweeper, usually you're playing some kind of mid-rangey control deck, and as a mid-rangey control deck, you're not really concerned with dealing damage to your opponents. So you're going to play this for the sweeper, and then you have to attack it as well. And once you attack it, you get a 4/4, which is not bad stats, but the effect itself is not relevant for board control, or and the stat line is not like super high either. So it's gonna be decent at blocking, but not like crazy. The ward is not very relevant. Yeah, this is probably just bad. Invasion of Mercadia or Mercadia? Mercadia? I think it's Mercadia. 2 mana, 4 life total battle. When Invasion of Mercadia enters the battlefield, you may discard a card. If you do, draw 2. That is pretty good because that's on par with effects that we do have in standard. So it doesn't have a lower power per se comparatively. So interesting. And you would get Chiron Flameright, a 3/3 with 3 tap, discard a card, create 2 1/1 blue and red elemental tokens. Creatures you control gain +1/+0 and haste until end of turn. I have no idea. I don't know. There's again, these battles are really difficult to evaluate because are you going to be playing a creature deck? The question every battle is, do you have creatures? Are you creature deck? Are you non-creature deck? If you're non-creature deck, are there cards that deal direct damage to battles? Are there no cards that deal direct damage to battles? If you're a creature deck, do you want to spend your turn 2 discarding a card and drawing 2? Probably not. Is the payoff good in a creature deck? Not really, but it's not terrible. No, I don't think you would spend 4 damage to get a 3/3. Although the effect is really good, so maybe. But the problem is the front side is kind of weak in terms of like tempo, so this is like a really good like mid-game spell potentially, but then your creatures have to be able to attack it through blockers, so too many variables. I was thinking about like Reanimator. In a Reanimator deck, this effect is good, and then the backside is also good because you also get another discard effect potentially. But the issue is that that deck has no way of like actually attacking, so you're probably never getting the backside, which means you're better off probably playing the other enchantment that gives haste. I don't know. I have no idea. Invasion of Regatha, 3 mana, 5 life, 5 life battle. When it enters the battlefield, it deals 4 to another target battle or opponent and 1 to up to 1 target creature. Okay, so we do have. Okay, so this is a battle that deals 4 to another battle, which means it can kill the previous battles, and 1 damage to up to 1 target creature. And that is not a bad effect considering we have a lot of 1/1s in this set. If the Convoke meta is a thing, then 1 damage will absolutely kill token. The question is, are you going to be curving this out with the previous battle that costs 2 mana? Probably not, because the payoff is not great. And what is the backside, I guess? Disciples of the Inferno. Prowess 4/4. If a non-creature source you control would deal damage to a creature battle or opponents, it deals that much damage +2. That's pretty strong. That is pretty strong. 5, you have to sink a quarter of your opponent's life total into this thing to get a 4/4 with prowess. If a non, this is insane. I have no idea. So the good news is that the next copies of Invasion will deal 3 and 4 and 6, 6 and 4, 6 and 3, I mean, so that's already a lot better. I think this has potential because it deals damage to battles for 4, and 4 seems to be a good number. I like the card. I'm still not convinced that battles are going to be a thing. As in, like, these types of battles have been really underwhelming, I think. And if they are a thing, then I think somebody will find a place for this in one of those decks, and it will be a good card. If you don't have a battle prior to this, the front side is bad. Yes, that is true. I know, it is weird. Like, I don't know how to evaluate it too much. I'm, I'm saying this fits in like a battle tribal deck, basically, where you only have battles. Something like that. I don't know, it's so weird. These cards are so specific and bizarre and are mechanics that we've never actually played with, so evaluating them is a total waste of time, I think, for the most part. All I can say is this card is weak if you don't have a battle and good if you have a battle. And the backside is good, assuming you're playing things that can actually activate this passive, but I'm assuming you would. Invasion of Tarkir. 2 mana, 5 life battle. When it enters the battlefield, reveal any number of dragon cards from your hand. When you do, it deals X plus 2 to any target where X is the number of cards revealed this way. X cannot be 0. Oh no, X can be 0. Never mind. X can be 0. Okay. So 2 mana, deal 2 for the most part. There's no dragon deck in standard, so. Define Thundermaul. Flying Trample whenever a dragon you control attacks, it deals 2 damage to any target. Okay, so I mean, this is a dragon tribal card pretty much. And I don't think there's a dragon tribal deck that's possible in standard, but I could be wrong as well. I have not really checked out the dragons. I would assume it's not possible. But if it is, this card is really, 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 really good. Yep, that's all I'll say about that. I think this card is good if you actually have dragons and if battles are good in general, because sinking 5 damage into this for a 4, but the 4/4, okay, actually, let me take that back. I don't know if this card's that good, because when you're getting the dragon, you're getting it post combat for the most part, which means that this effect only activates next turn, which means that you're sinking 5 HP for a blocker and then an attacker. Okay, I don't know. I don't know anymore. All I know is that this is definitely probably only playable in a dragon deck, so I'm assuming it would be good there. I hope it's good there, because otherwise their card design, this would be a failure as a card. Like, if the card is not good in a dragon's deck, then where is it good in? No deck, right? So, well, all I can hope that is that they designed it correctly. Depth Guard. Karsa's Depth Guard is a 3 mana, 4/3 defender. In its common, Spell Spirit, Trample Prowess, 2 mana, 2/2. Wow. Transform, like that, I'm saying wow for draft. Okay, 3 mana in a blue Phyrexian mana. Transform into Trample Ward 2 Prowess, Prowess. Double Prowess? Interesting. A busted draft card, but I wouldn't play it in a dragons deck. You don't have that many dragons out at once to take advantage. Well, even if you, well, yeah, my problem with it is that you don't get it. You don't get the dragon pre-combat, so. But I think if you did get the dragon pre-combat and you had like even one dragon attacking, I think you would still play the card. The spell can't be countered. It deals 1 damage to target creature, planeswalker. It deals 5 if that creature is blue or white. Wow. If that target is blue or white. Okay, so white and blue H. This is really, really, really good. Yeah. Yep. I mean, that's basically Fry, but like not instant, but half the mana, which is insane. And it's also able to deal 1 if that target is not the color. So it's almost just straight up better than Fry. Other than the fact that it's not instant, so that is a downside. Power creep. It's inevitable. It's standard. That's how they're gonna sell cards. Anyways, Marauding Dreadship. It's a 3-mana 4/1 with haste. It's a vehicle though. And when it enters the battlefield, incubate 2 and crew 2. 1 mana flash. When it enters the battlefield, attached to a creature, gets +2/+0. Nahiri's Warcrafting. 3 mana. Deals 5 to target creature, planeswalker, or battle. Okay, here's the card I was looking for. Okay. Look at the top X, where X is the excess damage dealt this way. You may exile one of the cards, put the rest on the bottom of your library, and in your order, you may play the exiled card this turn. Wow. That's really good, huh? Yeah. Okay, so not only does it deal 5 damage instead of the 4 that I was looking for to a battle, but it also has upside on weaker creatures, so you're not like wasting damage. That's really good. The issue is that card advantage is reliant on you having mana, or you finding a land. If you're on turn 4 and you have 3 mana and you play it and then you find a land, you can play the land. That's pretty good. But it's still pretty random because it's just exile top X, and if you find something, then good. If you don't find something, it's nothing. But either way, this can only be upside. This can only be considered upside. So the card is really good. Downside is it costs 2 red, which means a little bit restrictive in terms of mana. But that's not really a problem in current standard, so this will most likely see some play. It's a really good card. Pyretic? Prankster? 2 mana, 2/1. Okay, I'm gonna look at it, but I'm pretty sure. Okay. Ral's Reinforcement. 2 mana, create 2/1/1 blue and red elemental tokens. Okay. Another thing that creates tokens for Convoke. And it's pretty good. I wonder if the red and blue matters. Maybe. Greatsword. Convoke. Equipped creature gets trample. 3+2/+1. Rampaging Raptor. Trample haste. Whoa. Trample haste 4/4. For 4. And you can activate it for 3, and it gets +2/+0 until end of turn. Whenever it deals combat damage to an opponent, it deals that much damage to target planeswalker that player controls or battle that player protects. Okay, we're getting a Questing Beast. Questing Beast 2.0 with half the text and an activated ability, which is a good ability considering it's in red. And this card is really good. Okay. Questing Beast from Jurassic Park. Yeah. I mean, this creature is really good. First of all, 4 mana 4/4 haste, not legendary, is like a really good card to baseline. So on base level, if you consider cards like Raiju, it has the same amount of stats. Sure, it has a flexible ability, but in terms of raw stats, the turn it's played, this is exactly the same, except this card is really insane at dealing with, obviously, planeswalkers and other battles. So the card type that is introduced has some counterplay with this, or some additional benefit to playing battles with this card. And also, taking care of planeswalkers means you're not wasting your damage on planeswalkers, which mono red has a problem with sometimes, where the planeswalkers are effectively gaining a lot of life. So this card is really good. Probably the best card we've seen so far in red, I think. But it is pretty specific. Like, you won't play this in a lot of decks. But I think the power... Actually, the 5 damage spell is pretty good too. I think the The 5 damage spell is probably more versatile just because it's a removal spell. So I would say in general that card is probably better, quote unquote, because it's going to see more play. But I think this card's power level is quite ridiculous. So yeah, good card. Heal Slasher, 4 mana 2/3. Scrappy Bruiser, 4 mana 3/4. Whenever attacks up to 1. Okay. Yeah, this is not. Searing Barb, 3 mana, deal 2. If it's a creature, it can't block this turn, incubate 1. Shatter the Source, Convoke, deal 6, and destroy artifact. 7 mana, Convoke, 4/4 Flying Haste, Stoke the Flames. 4 mana, Convoke, Stoke the Flames deals 4 to any target. So another 4 damage, but something that can deal 4 damage to battles. But unfortunately, I think Convoke is a pretty big downside for this card, although I think this has potential to still be playable in Convoke decks, because if you get it down to 1 mana, because, oh yeah, now I get why the red and blue matters, because the red and blue tokens that we saw on that sorcery, that makes 2/1/1s, that means you can Convoke for red or blue, and that means that this can be reduced to 1 colorless mana potentially, or 2. And I think at 2 mana, this card is really good. And I think at 1 mana, it is really insane. Obviously, you have to tap creatures for that, but I don't think that's a huge deal if you're playing a bunch of spells like this. So this has some potential. It's clunky, but good card in the right deck, probably. Thrashing Frontliner, 2 mana, 3/2 trample. Trailblazing Historian. Urabrask, yeah. Whatever. Alright, Urabrask, 4 mana, 4/4 first strike. Whenever you cast an instant or sorcery, deal 1 damage to an opponent, add red. And then you can red exile the creature. And you can only activate this if you've cast 3 or more instant sorcery spells this turn. And you get a saga that deals 3 to each opponent and each creature they control. 3 treasure tokens on chapter 2. And until end of turn, you may cast instants and sorceries from your graveyard. From any graveyard. If a spell would be cast this way and would be put into any graveyard, exile instead. And then you return this creature. Okay. Alright, so casting 3 instants and sorceries is a pretty difficult thing, but I'm guessing this is just played in like a Izzet spell deck, so with like a bunch of considers and stuff. So it's probably not super hard to activate if you have the deck building for it, but it's obviously not the card that I thought it was initially. But I think the main thing is that the body itself is good, and the passive is already good, which is way better than the previous Praetors anyways. Where 4/4 first strike is like a really good stat line plus keyword, and then the add mana on each instant or sorcery is actually really relevant and allows you to like chain cast a lot of stuff, allows you to like redraw and then cast those spells. So I think while the activate ability is specific, it's also narrow. Like you won't always want to activate it because the ability is kind of narrow, where you lose your creature and then you sweep. So it would be a situation where you either have to sweep, or a situation where the game goes long enough where you can get to chapter 3 and there are spells that you want to get from chapter 3. In that case, I think it's really good. So yeah, even though I didn't read the first time that you needed to cast 3 or more instant sorceries this turn to activate this, I still think since the activated cost is really low, I think this card is still really good and it's way better than the other ones. The only one that can potentially compete with this is maybe the white one, but that one requires like even more deck building and is a lot riskier to activate. So yeah, I still think this is the best one out of all of them. But yeah, that's about it. This is just a good card, like really good card. Ancient Imperiosaur. 7 mana, Convoke, Trample Ward 2. When it enters the battlefield, no, it enters the battlefield with +2/+2, 2/+1/+1 counters on it for each creature that convoked it. Okay, so this can be like a really big fatty. Is a really big fatty that good? Yeah, actually, I think this is. I mean, the Ward 2 helps it a lot. The ward 2 helps it a lot. And I think you ideally want to cast this on 4. So you play like tokens early and you want to cast this on turn 4. And that would mean that you're reducing the cost by at least 3. It would be a 12/12. And that is big. That is very big. I think this card's good. The ward kind of saves it. It has good keywords. The convoke ability is quite good. I'm assuming like maybe you play like protection spells. I don't know. Maybe there's some scaling with like big creatures. I don't know if there's like a draw spell that draws off of the power or some other thing that scales off of power. There's got to be something to do with this. It does feel like a really good card. I think it's good. Adaptation +2/+2 untap. Fall, destroy artifact, battle, enchantment, or creature with flying. Okay. Okay. Wow. This is really insane. So it's just straight power creep, right? It's not instant. I guess there's that, but this is actually insane. This is really insane. I think this would see play even if the battle was not able to be destroyed with this effect. This is already a playable card, and the fact that it also destroys the battle is even better. This card is really, really insane. We'll definitely see play. If green is any good, it will be in the sideboard somewhere. Burgeoning. So finally some good green cards, I guess. That's pretty good. We started off strong. Burgeoning 3-mana enchant land. Enters the battlefield, incubate 2. Whenever enchanted land is tapped for mana, its controller adds another mana of any color. Okay, that's okay. Herd Beast is a common and it transforms into a vanilla creature. Okay. Jumping Kavu. Backup 1. This creature can't be blocked by creatures with power 2 or less. When Converter Beast enters the battlefield, incubate 5. 8 mana, trample, hexproof. 8/8. No. Cosmic Hunger. 2 mana, target creature you control deals power. Deals damage equal to its power to another creature, planeswalker, or battle. Okay. Another fantastic green removal spell. And this one is really, really good. Because it deals damage to battle. So green has a lot of incentive to be playing battles. I hope they're good, and I hope maybe you combine like different colors and like good battle payoffs and you play a bunch of these things. Interesting. Really good card. Crystal Carapace. 3/3 ward 2, cycling 2. Good draft card. Deeproot Wayfinder. 2 mana, 2/3. Whenever it deals combat damage to a player or battle, surveil 1. You may return a land card from a graveyard to the battlefield tapped. Wow. Okay. That is a good 2-drop. That's a really good 2-drop. It's not insane, but it's really good. The value is there. I think the problem is that 2/3 dies to cut down, dies to red removal is a little bit sketchy. So it'll probably not see play, but the effect is really broken. But like ramping on a 2-drop that has like decent stats is kind of insane, but yeah, it's probably not connecting. I think that's the issue. So unfortunately, I think it's slightly too weak on the stats to like to really capitalize off the effects. So kind of unfortunate. Doomscar Warrior. 4 mana, 4/3, trample, backup 1. Whenever this creature deals combat damage to a player battle, look at that many cards from the top of your library. You may reveal a creature, land, creature or land, put into your hand, put the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. Okay, when this creature deals combat damage. So backup 1, you can put it on your 3-drop and it would have the same effect. And otherwise, it's a 5/4 if you put it on itself. This card is really good. Okay, this card's really good. Trample is a good keyword for this kind of effect, and the fact that you can give this effect to your 3-drop, meaning that it will probably be able to attack into your opponent's 3-drop, which is really good. So then you're just drawing a card. So it's like essentially if your 3-drop connects, it's probably connecting for like 4 damage. Look at top 4, grab a creature or a land. Worst case you get a land, best case you get a creature. This card is very good. Good snowballing potential, really good with the previous like deal damage to opposing creature card, like the removal spells that we've seen. This card is very solid. Favor. Player searches their library for a basic land, puts on the battlefield, put two +1/+1/+1/+1 counters on up to target creature. Okay. Anyways, wait, that's an instant. What the? Hey, what? That's kind of interesting, I guess. I don't know. That can't be good, but that's kind of interesting that it's a combat trick. It's good. It's really good in draft. Glistening Dawn, 4 mana, incubate X, where X the number of lands you control. Incubate X twice. Okay. Okay. I have no idea if this is good or not. I have to see the other enablers for incubate. But I'm assuming since this is a rare, it would have to be good, right? Like if they printed a card like this, it means there's support for it. And if there's support for it, like if there's a card that says enter the battlefield, all your incubate tokens become creatures, then this is really insane. Because if for 4 mana, assuming you play on turn 4, you get 2 4/4s. If you get the flip card, so that's 8/8 worth of stats for 4 on 2 bodies. That's really crazy. So it depends on the enablers, but if those enablers exist, then this card is insane. Hermit is an uncommon, and it's an uncommon for a reason. Herbology and Structure is also an uncommon. Enters the battlefield, gain 3. Okay, and then Transform. It's a draft card. Okay. Invasion of Ikoria. 2 mana. X Siege Battle. Have 6 life. When Invasion of Ikoria enters the battlefield, search your library and graveyard for a non-human creature card with mana value X or less, put it on the battlefield. And if you search your library this way, shuffle. Non-human, search library for mana value X or less. So for 4 mana, you can get a 2-drop. So bad. That effect is so bad. This has to be okay. Reach for each non-human creature you control. You may have that creature assign combat damage as though it weren't blocked. Okay. So this, I think this siege should only be viewed as a potential objective to get an 8/8. And I don't even think that's that good. And the only thing is that when you top deck this card in the late game, you have extra value because you can search your library for a creature, but you wouldn't do that. Otherwise, this would just be played as like a 2 mana objective, basically. Which is bad. It's way too slow. It's way too clunky. The payoff is not great because it has no stats to defend itself, as in like it has no keywords to defend itself. The effect itself is fine, but it's post combat that you're usually getting this, so it only activates next turn. This card is kind of bad. Invasion of Ixalan, 2 mana, Siege, 4 life. When it enters the battlefield, look at the top 5. You may reveal a permanent card from among them and put it in your hand and put the rest at the bottom. That's pretty good for 2. That is not bad. And you get a trample 4/3, and whenever you cast a spell, it gains indestructible until end of turn. Okay. This is actually a good card. Trample and Indestructible is a really powerful combination because it allows your opponent to not be able to really chump block it. They would have to either have a bigger creature or they're taking 4, basically. So that's really good. And the effect itself of the front side is already card advantage, so it's not bad. You're paying 2 for top 5 grab a permanent, which is not bad. This card is pretty good, I think. This card is really good, I think. For only 4 life, you get that creature. That's pretty decent. I'm still like, I still have problems evaluating like battles because I don't know if they fit into the tempo that well. Like it feels like this is the very low tempo play on turn two. So I don't know, it's hard, so hard to evaluate without playing with it. So I just know the card is good. I don't know if it's playable. Invasion of Muraganda. 5 mana, 6 life siege. Whenever it enters the battlefield, put a +1/+1 counter on target creature you control, then it fights. For 5? This better be good. At the beginning of your combat on your turn, another target creature gets +2/+2, loses all abilities until end of turn. Draft card, okay. All right. Well, I mean, that's a really good draft card, but Invasion of Chandelar, 5 mana, 4 life siege. Whenever it enters the battlefield, return up to 3 permanent cards from your graveyard to your hand. That's a really negative tempo for 5. Jesus. And this better be good. At the beginning of your upkeep, you may put a permanent card from your hand onto the battlefield. Okay. Okay. That's good. That's really powerful. Synergy with the front side. At the beginning of what? The beginning of your upkeep. If it was end step, it would be really broken. But upkeep is still fine, but it's a little bit more vulnerable. 0 tempo, so essentially this is a card you play in a deck that already has board presence. Like, so it's a deck that curves out and has a bunch of creatures, and you play it, you attack it, you get the reward immediately. Next turn you can kind of pop off with the invasion, the bringing back 3 permanents, but for that you need cards in the graveyard as well, so that means creatures were dying potentially, which means that your board presence is not that good potentially. I don't know. Very high upside, very high downside as well for 5 mana, basically passing your turn essentially, is a price that is probably not. Yeah, this is probably too high of a price to pay. Most decks just have to play relevant cards on curve. I don't know. I have no clue where you would play this, but the value is there. I just don't know how you ever use this efficiently in a match, but who knows. Zendikar's Invasion, 4 mana, 3 life battle. When it enters the battlefield, search your library for up to 2 basic land cards, put them onto the battlefield tap. That's really good. This is just like a classic sorcery speed ramp spell that's very, very strong. And you get a 4/4 vigilance haste, and as long as it's on the battlefield, it's a land in addition to its other types. And you add 1 mana of any color. This is very solid. Very, very, very solid. This is probably the most playable one, I think, because it fits into ramp decks, and the objective is actually useful for ramp decks because it ramps even more and it gives you a vigilance and haste creature, which is also really good. And it's also a land, so it dodges non-land based removal. And this is pretty good. Nope. 3 mana, 1/1. Add X mana, where X is Kami of Whispers of Hope's power. When 1 or more +1/+1 counters will be put on a permanent you control, that many +1/+1 counters are put on this permanent instead. Okay, so it eats. I mean, okay. All right, never mind. Overgrown Pest. 3 mana, 2/2. When it enters the battlefield, look at top 5. You reveal a land or double face card from among them and put them into your hand. That's a really good draft card. Jeez. Ozolith, the Shattered Spire, 2 mana artifact, legendary artifact. If 1 or more +1/+1 counters will be put on an artifact or creature you control, that many +1 are put on it instead. 2 and tab, put a +1/+1 counter on target artifact or creature you control. Activate only as a sorcery in cycling 2. Okay. Okay. That is a really good card. It's a little bit slow, and standard has a decent amount of ways of dealing with artifacts. So, unfortunately, I think this is not good enough, but yeah, I think unfortunately it's not good enough. I want to say the effect is good, but I don't think there's that many ways of putting +1/+1 counters on stuff. Maybe you'd play it in like green-white prowess or something. Stacking like 1 mana +1/+1, it becomes like +2/+2. Like that might be relevant. I don't know. The fact that it's cycling is kind of appealing because that means you can play multiple and not really have a big downside for it being legendary. So that's also cool. I don't know. Cool card. No idea if it's playable or not, but it is relatively strong. Rotten Tail, 1/1 Vigilance. 3 mana, so 3 green for 4/5 reach. That's not terrible, but I mean it's good stats, but reach is kind of useless on this. And no trample. I don't know, good stats though, so pretty good card. It is 3 green though. And you can pay 6 and a Phyrexian white to transform into a reach lifelinker when it enters the battle. When it or another non-token Hydra you control dies, you make a 3/3 with reach and a 3/3 with lifelink, which is fine. So I mean, it's fine. I think I don't like that it's legendary. That means that you're gonna have trouble playing like 4, so you're not gonna be able to play 4 basically, because this will probably not die most of the time. The transformation is fine. No trample again. I feel like that doesn't really fit into Green's game plan that well, but it's a big chunker and it has upside when it dies, although there are many ways to exile it. So with no vigilance, I feel like vigilance would have been insane on this card. A little bit too underwhelming, I think. Might still see play because the stat line is really good, but that's about it. Tracker. 2 mana 1/1 untap land. Choose target battle. If an opponent protects it, remove a defense counter from it. Otherwise, put a defense counter on it. Oh, wow, that's really good in draft. Dude, green is pretty insane in draft. What the? 5 mana 3/4. Enters the battlefield. Choose one. Gains haste or destroy target artifact or enchantment. That's good in draft. Sand Stalker Moloch. 3 mana 4/2 flash. Whenever enters the battlefield, if an opponent casts a blue or black spell this turn, look at the top 4 cards of your library. You may reveal a permanent from among them and put it into your hand. Put the rest on the bottom of your library in any order. Okay, green getting a flash creature is not bad. So this is actually not a terrible card in the sideboard. I feel like it is a little bit underwhelming maybe in terms of tech cards, because this is almost only dedicated to like anti-control. So, which is good because green is not that good against control, I think, most of the time. It's a little bit too slow. So them having a flash creature that also generates card advantage is really good against control decks in general. But the problem is, if you just use it as a 4/2 flash creature, it's really not that good. It has to be a 4/2 flash creature that also gets you a card. So that means they have to cast a blue or black spell, which is usually only going to happen on your turn, which means that you have to cast this basically as a creature that doesn't really have flash. So yeah, I'm not too happy about this. I feel like it's underwhelming in terms of I feel like it's kind of underwhelming in terms of a tech card or a hate card. It's really not that good. It's fine. It could do its job, but I don't know. Problem is like most control decks don't really play spells on their turn. That's the issue. I don't know. Seed of Hope, green, mill 2, put a permanent card among the milled cards into your hand. Ooh, that's risky. Actually, it's not really risky. Wait, this is not bad. Wait, this card's not bad. For common? Instant speed, like basically draw land? In game 2? That's pretty good. I don't know. I'm surprised. This is actually a good card. It's not like super good, but if you're pretty much only playing permanents, okay, I guess the problem is you would only have to be playing permanents, but interesting. Serpent Blade Assailant. It would not be good against blue black toxic. I would just trade with the bird. It's not worth. Serpent Blade Assailant. 3 mana 2/1 backup. That's okay. Storm the Seed Core. 4 mana. Distribute 4 +1/+1 counters among up to 4 creatures you control. They gain vigilance and trample until the end of turn. That's pretty good. That is actually pretty good. Hey, brain lag. It's insane. It's an insane card for a common. Yeah, it was that mill 2 is not a bad card, especially considering we have seen some spells that grab cards from the graveyard and use that to like bring back to your hand and stuff like that. This is pretty good. I think it's really good actually. 4+1/+1 counters is really good. It's 4/4 width of stats plus upside of giving everything vigilance and trample, which are two fantastic keywords. I think this card is really good. Negotiator, but it's not playable in standard. But oh, actually, it might be playable in standard. I'm not even joking. That might be playable in standard. That card is actually relevant, I think. Streetwise Negotiator, 2 mana 0/2, backup 1, assigns combat damage equal to its toughness rather than its power. And when take down 3 mana up to 2 target creatures you control get +1/+1. They each deal damage equal to the power to another target creature, planeswalker, or battle. Okay, that's really good. That's really good in draft. And maybe, no. Maybe in constructed, maybe. Like, it is pretty good. Like, giving +1/+0 is good. Scaling up the removal spell and then targeting a battle is good. I don't know. Pretty decent card. Tangled Skyline, 5 mana enchantment. Enters the battlefield, gain 5, incubate 5. Rexins you control a reach. Timberland Ancient is just a big chunker. Tribute to the World Tree, 3 mana whenever a creature enchantment. Whenever a creature enters the battlefield on your control, draw a card if its power is 3 or greater. Otherwise, put 2 +1/+1 counters on it. I don't know. 3 green mean it's only playable in mono green. I wouldn't say it's bad, but the problem is it costs 3 mana. This kind of effect is like mono green is not necessarily a deck that can afford to pass turn 3 or any turn for that matter. And then the later you draw this, the worse it is. I just think this card's unplayable. Unfortunately, I think it's too expensive. There's there's a white, like 1 white enchantment but that card's good because it costs 1 white and it can be used in a variety of decks like soldiers and stuff like that. This is just way too expensive and it's only playable in mono green. I just don't, if you're not getting the card, I don't think it's okay. So assuming maybe you're playing like a token deck, if that even exists with 3 green, like, you know, you play 2 1/1s, they become 3/3s, like that's pretty good. Like that's actually pretty good. Is there like a card that summons like a bunch of 1/1s? Like maybe you do that. That's the only thing I can see with this. It's not really about drawing cards because drawing cards would be way too slow. You would just not do that. It can't be about the card draw. It's got to be about the +2/+2, which means it's upscaling your 1/1s essentially. So I have no clue. I don't know. There might be a deck for this, but it will definitely not be a deck that's even remotely playable right now. So maybe in like a token deck. That's all I can see. That's the only thing I can see for this. Is like a token deck. That's it. Vengeant Earth. Target land you control. Target creature or land becomes a 4/4 elemental with haste. And it must be blocked this turn. Wow. That is a good draft card. Vorinclex. 5 mana trample reach. No haste, unfortunate. 6/6 is good stats. Whenever it enters the battlefield, search your library for up to 2 force. Reveal them, put them in your hand. And for 8 mana, exile Vorinclex. Return it to the battlefield transformed. Alright. Mill 10, put up to 2 creatures among the mill cards onto the battlefield. Okay, that's pretty decent. Dude, milling 10 is stuff, but okay. Distribute 7 +1 whoa. +1/+1 counters among any number of target creatures you control. And until end of turn, creatures you control gain 1. This creature fights target creature you don't control. Okay, I mean, I don't know. I actually don't know. For this one, I have no idea. 8 mana is a lot. So okay. There's no way I evaluate the saga. The saga is good. If you get it, it's good. That's all I'll say. You get the saga, it's really good. You're probably not getting the saga though, which means that this is a 6/6 trample reach, enter the battlefield, draw 2 forests. That's not bad. Don't get me wrong. That's not bad. But I don't think this is standard playable. No, no, I don't think this is standard playable. No, and then the activated ability is too expensive. Unfortunate. War Historian, 3 mana, 3/3, indestructible as long as it attacked a battle. Attacked a battle this turn. Okay, well, it's really good in draft. Holy moly. Dude, green is insane in draft from what I've seen. Surveil 1 whenever enters the battlefield or dies. That's really good in draft too. Jeez, they have good commons. Wildwood Escort. 5 mana to the battlefield, return target creature or battle card from your graveyard to your hand. Wow, okay, wait, the green is insane. Every time I find a new common, it's pretty insane. Wrenn and Realmbreaker. Lands you control have tap, add 1 mana of any color. Up to 1 target land you control becomes a 3/3 elemental creature with vigilance, hexproof, and haste until end of turn, until your next turn. It's still land. And -2 mill 3, put a permanent card from among the milled cards into your hand. So mill 3, draw a card. Among those, -7, get an emblem, you play lands and cast permanent spells from your graveyard. I don't know. I don't think this card's super good. I think it's okay. It doesn't impact the board on turn 3, which is something that I missed at first. So it doesn't untap the land. It just makes the land into a 3/3. So on turn 4, you're getting a 3/3, but it's a 3/3 that can die in combat. So you're not looking to trade it off. The -2 is really good. And the ult is kind of whatever, because if you get it, you win. But I mean, it takes you 3 turns to get there. I mean, that's doable. I think the card is fine. Yeah, I think it's a good card. I don't think it's like super game breaking or anything. It's just solid. It's really good against control. That's like the main thing. This is like a really, really, really good Planeswalker against control decks. Because Hexproof is a nightmare, Vigilance is a nightmare, Haste is a nightmare. The -2 draw card is a nightmare for 3 mana. Yeah, this is like the control killer essentially. But I think in mid-range battles, it's not that relevant. Overall, green is really good. I like green. I think, is it the best color we've seen? Still, the battles are kind of underwhelming. Yeah, I do think green is really good. But it's not like crazy either. I don't know. I think it's still like kind of the same level. Like it's kind of the same as white and red. I feel like now that I'm looking through the cards, I don't find like anything like super broken. I do think green has like maybe more good cards potentially. That's something. Maybe from that alone, it's the best color. I'm not sure, but pretty good stuff. Brawl in Zari or Karizev. 3 mana, 2/4 for strike menace. Whenever you cast your first instant or sorcery spell each turn, you may cast a spell with lesser mana value that shares a card type with it from your hand without paying its mana cost. If you don't, make a 2/1 red monkey pirate token and gains haste until end of turn. This card is very, very good. Yeah. So potential free mana by casting a spell with lesser mana value if you cast with the same type. The baseline creature is very good. First strike menace on a 2/4 for 3 is very, very good. And you can make a monkey as well with any non-creature spell, with any instant or sorcery spell you cast, basically, if you choose to do so. So that's really good. Borborygmos and Fibblethip. 5 mana, 6/5. Whenever it enters the battlefield or attacks, draw a card. Then you may discard any number of land cards. When you do, when you discard one or more cards this way, whenever, okay, yeah, you can only discard lands, and whenever you do that, it deals twice that much damage to a target creature, depending on the amounts. Yes. Okay. And for 2 mana, you can put it into its owner's library third from the top. So from the graveyard for the most part. Wait, is this from the graveyard? I think so. Wait. No, this is not from your graveyard, right? No. This is just if it's on the battlefield and it gets targeted by removal, then you pay 2 and it goes back in. Okay. Eh. Not great because you can only discard lands. Yeah. But it does draw a card, so it's not bad. But it's not great. No keywords, random ass 6/5. Alright. Tentacle Brawler, 2 mana, trample, 2/2 basically. That's 2+1/+1 counters on it. Whenever one or more +1/+1 counters are put on another permanent you control, it's the first time +1/+1 counters have been put on a permanent this turn. On that permanent this turn, put a +1/+1 counter on this. So another thing that skills in the Selesnya deck with the +1/+1 counters, kind of interesting. Trample is really good keyword. I think this card has some potential. I don't know. It's not super insane, but decent. Jeru and Hazoret, 5 mana, Boros creature, 5/4. As long as you have one or fewer cards in hand, it has vigilance and haste. Okay, so it's like a top end aggro deck card. Vigilance haste is not bad. Whenever it attacks, look at the top 6 card of your library. You may exile a legendary creature from among them. Put the rest on the bottom of your library until end of turn. You may cast that exiled card without paying its mana cost. Wow. Legendary creature only. Interesting. Hmm. I mean, the effect is obviously broken, and Vigilance and Haste is obviously broken, but this runs under the basic requirement that your deck is cheap because you have to have one or less cards in your hand. So most likely the legendary creature getting is like a 3-drop maybe. That, or somehow you manage to play like an expensive legendary deck and somehow you get rid of enough cards in your hand where you have one or less when you play this. It seems like the card has potential. Like the effect is really, really strong. So yeah, this definitely has potential. Any card that cheats out another card from at no mana cost is very good. And obviously this is a pretty restrictive card. It requires deck building, but legendary creatures can be expensive. It can be very, very powerful. So all in all, I think this card is actually good. Drina and Livala, 4 mana, 3/4 flying vigilance. Activated abilities of creatures your opponent control can't be activated. And it has all activated abilities of all creatures your opponent controls. And you may spend mana as though it were mana of any color to activate those abilities. Yep, tech card, very good. It's also an angel, so relevant. In that case, also a vampire, which is also relevant. Flying vigilance is fine. Yeah, it's a tech card. It's not super good on its own, but it's really good as a tech card, I think. Vat Keeper. Enters the battlefield, incubate 2, 5 mana, transform target incubator token, double number, +1/+1 counters on it. 3 mana, 2/3, Flash Flyer. Look at top card of your library at any time. You may cast spells with flash or flying from the top of your library. Okay, so Flash deck. Flash deck doesn't draw lands, only casts flash or flying. Interesting. I think flying is the most relevant here, where it's basically a flying kind of. It's interesting. It's also an angel. So never mind. This card is really insane. It's going to be played in angel decks, right? Like you basically get to cast every single angel from the top of the deck for the rest of the game, as long as it lives. And it's also an angel itself, and it also has flash, so it's good against control. This card's fantastic. This will see play in other formats, I think, 100%. As long as they want to play blue, I guess, because it won't fit in Selesnya. So it'd have to be Bant Angels, maybe. I don't know. But the card is really good. Delta and Mavrin, 7 mana, 12/12 trample. Whenever you attack, choose one. Create a tapped in attacking XX green dinosaur creature token with trample, where X is the greatest power among other attacking creatures. So other attacking creatures, not itself. Create X 1/1 white vampire tokens with lifelink, where X is the number of other attacking creatures. I don't know, 7 mana, 12/12. It's like, it's a fatty. It doesn't protect itself. If you can cheat it out, this card's insane. But it maybe like give it haste or something. There's got to be a way to do that. If there's a way to give it haste, this card is good as long as you control another creature. Because if you don't control another creature, it's just 12 damage, which is not bad, but I don't know. Unfortunately, I mean, the power level is kind of there. I think the problem is that it requires another creature. Oh, another creature to be attacking as well. Okay, that's troublesome, I think. I don't think this card's that good. It might see play, but too many requirements, I think, and doesn't protect itself. Glissa, Herald of Predation, 5 mana, 3/5. At the beginning of combat on your turn, choose one, incubate 2 twice, or transform all incubator tokens you control. For exchange you control, gain first strike and death touch until end of turn. So, if you play this and you make 2 incubate tokens, and then the next turn you transform them. So if this lives 1 turn, you'll get 2 2/2s. You'll get 2 2/2s, which is not bad. So over the course of 1 turn, you can get upwards of 7/9 worth of stats on 3 bodies, which is pretty good. Unfortunately, actually not unfortunately, this is a good card, right? Because even if you might play this in a deck where you can use the artifacts instead of just thinking about this as like a creature-based effects, where it's just like, you want the artifacts. Maybe there's a specific deck that wants to like sacrifice permanents, and you can use those artifacts to like sack and gain more value out of other things. I don't know. This is another card that you have to brew around. I have no clue on it by itself. I don't think it's good enough for standard. With support, I think it might be. Halo Forager, I think 3 mana Dimir creature, 3/1 flyer. When it enters the battlefield, you may pay X. When you do, cast target instant or sorcery card with mana value X from your graveyard without paying its mana cost. A spell you put in your graveyard, exile it instead. Card is not very good. It's basically worse than the prototype creature that we already have in standard, and that card doesn't see that much play. A 3/1 flyer is marginally better than the 2/1, but unfortunately it doesn't get a spell back on turn 3, so in that sense it is way weaker than a 2/1 for extra stats. Doesn't have flash. Not great overall. Hidetsugu and Kairi. 5 mana Dimir, 5/4 flyer. When it enters the battlefield, draw 3, then put 2 cards from your hand on top of your library. When it dies, exile the top card of your library. Target opponent loses life equal to its mana value. If it's an instant or sorcery, you may cast it without paying its mana costs. Okay. All right. Very interesting. This will see play. This will see play. No. This will see play. Draw 3, put 2 on top is a decent effect. It's basically draw a card. So 5 mana, draw a card. And if you build around it, when it dies, you also draw a card and you're able to cast it for free and they lose some life. So with Shield Red as well, with the 4 mana Shield Red, you can potentially give them enough life lost to just reach them from any point in the game. Well, later in the game, I guess, after you've dealt some damage. So, yeah. I think this will see play, and it seems to be a good card. So, yeah. Inga and Essica, 4 mana, 4/4. Creatures you control have vigilance and tap. Add 1 mana of any color. Spend this mana only to cast a creature spell. That is pretty good. That is pretty good. Whenever you cast a creature spell, if 3 or more mana from creatures was spent to cast it, draw a card. Interesting. So this is a convoke. Okay. Wait, this is not a convoke type thing. Wait, what? Token base. So this is a non-convoke token. Wait, does convoke? Wait, convoke counts, right? Convoke counts as mana being spent from creatures, right? Or not? Actually, I don't know what. I don't know. If the answer is yes, then this card is broken. If the answer is no, then this card is fine. Well, I guess no. Wait. This doesn't make sense because convoke spell you would be able to just pay the mana from Inga and Essica anyways. So it's actually exactly the same thing. Never mind. That's irrelevant. That's completely irrelevant because you still have to tap the creature. You can tap the creature to gain mana, but only to cast a creature spell. But still, it's like essentially what I wasn't thinking too straight there. So token based creature deck that can like almost infinite, like not infinitely, but like cycle through mana really well and just like ramp out creatures. You get a 4 mana 4/4, which is okay. I don't know. The only cast for creature spells is the problem for me. I think this card is too clunky. Yeah, convoke is alternate costs. I think this card's too clunky. I think it requires too many creatures on the battlefield because technically it would have to be 3 other creatures to get a card draw off of it, so it's not like super good. Maybe you can ignore the fact that it can only. Oh no, this can only be cast on creature spells. I don't know. Maybe you run like token base full ramp into like another creature. I have no idea. This is a build around. It seems like the effect is powerful enough. The creature itself is not great though. 4/4, no keyword. Has some card advantage built in, so that's a saving grace potentially. Invasion of Alara, 5 mana, all colors. 7 life. Jeez. When it enters the battlefield, exile cards from the top of your library until you exile 2 non-land cards with mana value 4 or less. You may cast one of those 2 without paying its mana cost. Okay. That is very good. And then put one of them into your hand. And put the other cards exiled this way on the bottom of your library. So it doesn't just purely exile. All right, interesting. So you're casting a 4 or less spell of your choosing between 2 cards. So you cast 1, that's pretty good. And then the other can go in your hand, will go in your hand. That's pretty good. And you're getting a sorcery. Wait, what? So you flip and you cast the sorcery? What? What? Wait. Wait, this is a sorcery, which means that if you destroy this battle on your opponent's turn, you cannot cast this, right? So it has to be on your turn and during your main phase. Target player draws 2 cards. You may put an artifact card from your hand onto the battlefield. Create a token that's a copy of a permanent you control. Distribute 3 +1/+1 counters among 1, 2, or 3 creatures you control. Destroy target permanent and opponent controls. Okay. Draw 2. I think to put an artifact card from your hand on the battlefield is garbage. But maybe you build around it. Create a token. Actually, it's not garbage. Maybe you play this in a colorless deck and you just play lands that can cast every color, maybe. Create a token that's a copy of permanent you control is good. Distribute 3 +1/+1 counters is fine. Destroy target permanent opponent controls is good. This is But you kill almost all battles in combat then? I don't understand. Yeah, I have no idea how this works. Like this is so confusing to me. Why is it a sorcery? Because yeah, I don't, when does it cast? When, like if you destroy it in combat, does it cast it immediately? If that's the case, then it would also work if you destroy it on your opponent's turn with like direct damage. I don't know. Okay, let's assume that it always casts the spell immediately, which doesn't change that much all in all. This card is good, I think. Yeah. This card is good. The value's there. Sinking 7 damage into this is tough, but you can use like destroy effects to get it easier. This card has to be good. This card's good for sure. 5 colors is a little bit rough on the mana, but if you can get it, the payoff is really good. So you can use like maybe use that black spell that removes all counters from a. Oh no, it only removes 5. Ooh, okay. So you need like a destroy. Wait, can you destroy battles? Wait, does anybody know? Oh, creatures are also not instant. So yeah, you're right. Then it would just cast. Yeah, okay, never mind. It transforms and then it immediately casts the thing. Okay. Can somebody tell me if you can't? So you cannot destroy them. Okay. So you cannot destroy battles. All right. You have to deal damage. All right. Okay. Then this is a little bit difficult. This is a little bit difficult. It's obviously a really good card. Okay, I guess the way you look at this is 5 mana, cast 4 CMC or less. Like for sure, you're going to be able to cast 4 CMC or less. Draw a card. Oh no, draw a non-land permanent. So yeah, you automatically draw like 2 like good cards. Play one of them, force 4 less CMC. And then you get to choose if you want to attack this or if you want to deal damage to your opponent directly. If you're winning already, you probably go for your opponent. If you're not winning, you go for this. And this is basically just like a bonus where, you know, if you change your objective and you don't want to deal damage to your opponent, you go for this. You kill it, you draw 2, you get some stats, you get like more board presence, and you destroy something. So the card is still good. But sinking 7 into this is a little bit rough, but I think it's still fine. Like it's an alternate objective. It's not like you always go for that. You don't always go for the 7. Does destroy target permanent not work? No, I don't think so. Yeah. You have to attack it or use burn. Yeah. Okay. Yep. All right. Anyways, this card is good. Really good. One of the better battles, if not the best battle that we've seen. No, probably not the best, but up there for sure. Top 3. Invasion of Amonkhet. 3 mana, 4 life battle. When invasion enters the battlefield, each player mills 3. Each opponent discards a card, and you draw a card. Pretty good. And it becomes a 4/4. Enters the battlefield as a copy of any creature card in a graveyard, except it's a 4/4. Sure. Okay, that's fine. You can destroy battles. Cosmic Hunger. What's Cosmic Hunger? I don't know what that is. Yeah, I mean you can destroy battles, but you won't get the reward. At least that's my understanding of it, but who knows? Oh, it deals damage. Yeah, yeah. If you have to deal damage to it essentially, or remove counters. Invasion of Asgol, 2 mana. When enters the battlefield, target player sacrifices a creature, planeswalker, and loses 1 life. Okay, that's not bad. In fact, that is a very good effect for 2 on a battle. That sounds good. 4 life on it, and you get a menace. At the beginning of your end step, put a +1/+1 counter out if a permanent was put into a graveyard from the battlefield this turn. Can somebody confirm that tokens go into the graveyard? Technically? I keep forgetting about that. Like maybe an anvil you would play this? Okay, yes. Alright. So you're getting a 3/2 with menace potentially. think you'd rather deal damage phase. This is not worth. Okay. This card is unfortunately bad, I think. I don't think you sink 4 damage into this just to get a creature that will deal more damage. That doesn't seem good. Invasion of Urgamon, 2 mana, 5 life on the battle. Enters the battlefield, create a treasure. You may discard a card. If you do, draw a card. Okay, pretty good. And you get a 3/4 Trampler. When it enters the battlefield, discard a card. You may discard a card. If you do, search your library for a land or battle, reveal it, put in your hand. Interesting. Not great because you have to sink 5 damage into it, but the effect is quite good. Getting another battle, I'm assuming you're playing a battle deck. The treasure token is good. The looting is good. I would say this has potential. I have no idea if it's good or not though. It has potential. It's like it's a good card. I just don't know if it's gonna be playable. Invasion of Kaladesh, 4 life, 2 mana. When it enters the battlefield, create a 1/1 colorless Thopter artifact creature token with flying. 2 mana, create a 1/1 artifact with flying. Okay. 4, so X and 4. Flying in its power is equal to the number of artifacts you control. Crew 1, so it's a vehicle. That's pretty good. That's pretty good. So in an artifact deck, this is a good card. I like this as a vehicle. Crew 1 is really easy. And really good scaling on it too. This is probably playable in an artifact deck. Invasion of Kilem, 4 mana, 5 life battle. When enters the battlefield, up to 2 target creatures each get +2/+0 and gain vigilance and haste until end of turn. Not great. And so essentially you're trying to kill the battle on that turn, is what I'm guessing. No trample though. 5 life, and you get 2 3/2s whenever this creature and at least one other creature attack, put a +1/+1 counter on this creature. You're essentially getting 2 4/3s the next turn. Okay, that's not bad. That's not bad. Is it worth playing? Probably not, because it means you have board presence already, which kind of means you're already winning the game. So if you just play like a regular creature, it's probably the same thing. And you would also have to waste 5 damage to get 6 damage, 8 damage back potentially, which is upside, but still you're going wide. You're vulnerable to sweepers. Not worth it, I think. I think you just send the 5 face or whatever. If you have 5 damage to spare on this, you spend the 5 face, you just play a creature instead of this, and that's it. Invasion of Lorwyn. Oh, token support? Maybe. Maybe. Invasion of Lorwyn, 6 mana, 5 life. Whenever it enters the battlefield, destroy target non-elf creature an opponent controls with power X or less, where X is the number of lands you control. So theoretically, if you have 6 lands, you get to destroy a creature with 6 or less. Non-elf only, though. And when you kill this battle, or when you win the battle, its power and toughness are equal to the number of lands you control, which is not great, so too expensive. Invasion of Moog, 4 mana, 5 life. Whenever it enters the battlefield, put a +1/+1 counter on each creature you control. That's okay. And that's actually okay because it allows you to attack a lot easier potentially. You get a 3/3 with ward 2 at the beginning of your end step. Put a +1/+1 counter on target creature you control. That's not terrible, I think. I think that's not terrible because anything that gives combat stats allows you to attack easier into the battle. And this seems to be a deck where you're going wide, so you want to go even wider. This is not about racing your opponent, so you just want more stats, and this gives you more stats. And this is at the beginning of your end step proc, which is really important, which means you can win the battle, and then you actually get the effect for once instead of waiting for your upkeep or instead of waiting for next combat. So this is actually quite good, I think. Vision of New Capenna, 2 mana, 4 life. When it enters the battlefield, you may sacrifice an artifact or creature. When you do, exile target artifact or creature an opponent controls. This is quite good. This is quite good. There's a very good effect. Especially with the incubate tokens, potentially. That's a strong front side. Backside is equipment. Whenever equipped creature attacks, put a +1/+1 on that creature and each other creature you control that shares a creature type with it. Equip 1. That's underwhelming. As a potential, like using this as a removal just to get an artifact that pumps your creatures is not great because it means that you have to attack, that you can't get the stats from this. But I don't think it's bad because the front side is so good that at least you have the option of getting the artifact if you really want it. Yeah, this card's good. Invasion of New Phyrexia, a 2 and X card, 6 life. When it enters the battlefield, create X/2/2 blue and white tokens with vigilance. That's really good. And if you deal 6 to it and win the battle, you get Teferi, draw 2, then discard 2 unless you discard a creature card. -2, you get an emblem. Nice, you control, get +1/+0 and have ward, which is pretty good. As an emblem, that's really good. And -3, tap X creatures you control. When you do, shuffle target non-land permanent and opponent controls with mana value X or less into its owner's library. And Teferi starts at 4 loyalty. So you can always do anything you want on turn 1. This is good. This is a very good card. It's a really good finisher for control. As like a flex punisher, like finisher in blue-white in general. It's a really good card with upside in case you want to not deal damage to your opponent, which control normally doesn't want to deal damage to its opponent immediately. You just go for Teferi, you get like an extra buff on your knights. Maybe you just loot away 2 cards. It's pretty good. Oh, you wanted to read the card, but then I read the whole card. Yeah, I keep going in and I don't know. I don't know. I'm trying to speed run this thing. Invasion of Perula. 2 mana, 4 life. When it enters the battlefield, scry 3, then reveal the top card of your library. If it's a land or double face card, draw a card. Scry 3, reveal the top card of your library. If it's a land or double face card, draw a card. So draw 2 mana, draw a land or a battle. Scry 3. That's pretty good. And for 4, it has 4 life. And you're getting trample, ward 2. Other transform permanents you control have trample and ward 2. Other transform permanents. I think the card's okay. Yeah, this card's fine. Scry 3, draw land is good. Or double face, so you can draw a siege as well. A battle, I mean. That's pretty good. And the reward is okay. Trample ward 2 is pretty good. This is totally fine, yeah. Invasion of Telvada. 5 mana, 5 life. When Invasion of Telvada enters the battlefield, return target non-battle permanent card from your graveyard to the battlefield. Non-battle permanent, yeah, okay. So 5 mana, return whatever you want except battle. 5 life. If you deal the 5, creature tokens you control get +1/+0 and have lifelink. At the beginning of your end step, very important, create a 1/1 white and black creature token with flying. This is a really good card. This is a very, very good card. But again, the main downside is that you have to sink 5 damage into this. I think that's my main issue with all these battles is that you have to sacrifice. So this is if you're going for like the long game. It's an option, right? You hit it. So the front side is good. It's not as good as just playing Cruelty of Gix, but if you get the flip side as well, then it's really good. Creature tokens you control get +1/+0. I'm assuming you're playing like Wedding Announcement, and then at the beginning of your end step, so you get the effect immediately after combat. You get a 1/1, so it's basically a 2/1 with flying. That's really good every turn. That's really good. So really good card. Invasion of Xerix. 4 mana, 4 life. When it enters the battlefield, return up to 1 target creature to its owner's hand. That's not very good. And you get a flying paladin with power toughness equal to the number of creatures you control. That's not good. Storm Sculptor, 5 mana, 2/3. When it enters the battlefield, create 2/1/1 blue and red tokens. Whenever you cast a spell that has Convoke, it deals 1 damage to each opponent and each battle they protect. What happens if we have Solemnity on the board and a battle ETBs? Is that the thing where you can't ETB anymore? Or just not ETB? I mean, they will still get the battle, but you would not get the effect. If it says enter the battlefield, you can't put counters on things. Yeah, but that enters with counters. You're not putting counters. It's like Planeswalkers. Does Solemnity stop Planeswalkers? I don't think so, right? I don't think it does anything. Anyways, this card is not great. Kagla and Yajaro, 6 mana, 7/7. When it enters the battlefield, it gains trample and haste until end of turn. So you choose one. Trample and haste until end of turn, or fights target creature you don't control. That's pretty good. 4 Vorinclex affects Planeswalkers. Yeah, but that's... Oh. Yeah, but Vorinclex is not the same text, right? Somebody look that up. I mean, either way, it's not relevant standard, so... I'm pretty sure Vorinclex doesn't say put... If, like, what does Solemnity say? I don't know that. I don't remember. The text, I'm sure the wording is different because I'm pretty sure I've never seen anybody's Planeswalker just instantly die because of Solemnity. That does not sound right. 4, so it's 6 mana, 7/7. It can gain trample and haste or fight a creature you don't control. And for 4 mana, discard Kogla and Yajaro, destroy up to 1 target artifact or enchantment, shuffle back into your deck from your graveyard, then draw a card. That's really good. Okay, so it's a really good creature that has huge upside for 4 mana, where you can discard it from your hand and you can destroy a target artifact or enchantment, and it goes back into your deck and you draw a card. That's really good. This card is very, very good. It's expensive, but it can be removal, it can be haste. Super flexible. This will probably see play somewhere. Like, the card is just really, really good. Kroxa and Kunoros, 6 mana, 6/6 vigilance, menace, lifelink. Jeez. Okay, whenever it enters the battlefield or attacks, you may exile 5 cards from your graveyard. When you do, return target creature card from your graveyard to the battlefield. Wow. Okay. Alright, so if you have 6 cards in your graveyard and you have 1 creature, you can exile the other 5, get the creature back, and you're getting a vigilance, menace, lifelink creature. That's pretty good. So this has really big synergy in like self-mill decks, where you're probably already using a reanimator deck. So you can reanimate this, and then this reanimates something else. That's like really good. That's very, very good. Oh, Solemnity says can't get counters. Okay, yeah, so yeah. They just can't uptick, yeah. I knew that was not the thing. Anyways. Marshall, 2 mana, 2/2 other knights get +1/+1, and you can pay to tap another creature. Not bad, that's a lord, but it's not that good. 2 mana, 2/2 vigilance. Whenever a creature becomes the target of a backup ability, copy that ability. You may choose 2 new targets. This ability triggers once each turn. Not very good. 3 mana, 0/5 flying vigilance and gets +1/+0 for each transform permanently controlled. Not good. Omnath, Locust of All, a 5 mana, but it has 1 Phyrexian black mana in the cost, so it can cost 4 mana and 2 life. If you would lose unspent mana, that mana becomes a black instead. What? If you would lose unspent mana, that mana becomes black instead. But does that mean you keep the mana? Because unspent mana means that it's floating, right? So it just becomes black mana that doesn't disappear between phases. Why is that not specified? Usually it says this mana cannot be lost through phases, right? Very weird. Does a flipped Fable and announcement count as transform? No, I don't think so because that's an exile effect. You keep it and it becomes black, so you can cast Invoke with it. Okay, so sure. Beginning of your pre-combat main phase, look at the top card of your library. You may reveal the card if it has 3 or more colored mana symbols and its cost. If you do, add 3 mana in any combination of colors and put it into your hand. If you don't reveal it, put it into your hand. If you don't reveal it, put it into your hand. Okay. Pre-combat main phase, so it's next time after next upkeep. So the you play it, it does nothing. The next turn, you draw a card and potentially gain 3 mana. But only if that card has 3 or more colored mana symbols in it. Okay. Jeez. I don't think this is good at all. I don't know. Notorious Lore Master, 5 mana, 3/5 vigilance. At the beginning of your next end step, exile target non-creature, non-land card from your graveyard. Create a 3/2 red and white spirit token. That's really good. But it can only exile non-creature, non-land, so it has to be like a, well, yeah, spell-based deck. And you can pay 3 and tap it. Sacrifice a spirit. Choose target card exiled with Quintorius. You may cast that card without paying its mana cost. If that spell would be put into a graveyard, put it in the bottom of its owner's library instead. That's really, 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 really strong. This card is very good. Even the base effects, not counting the sacrifice, is really good. You play it at the beginning of your end step, you get a 3/2, essentially getting a 6/7 worth of stats on turn 5 on 2 bodies. That's really good. It has vigilance, which is really good, which means you can attack and then activate the effect of sacrificing a spirit, and you cast whatever spell that gets exiled with Quintorius for free. That's really good. So it's upside. It has baseline like really good things. But yeah, very, very strong card. Geoderm, 4 mana, 3/3 trample haste. Whenever you attack, target attacking creature gets +1/+1 until end of turn. If it's attacking a battle, put a +1/+1 counter instead. Yeah, basically a worse Raiju. Way worse Raiju. Ranko and Torban, 5 mana, flying haste, first strike. Whenever it deals combat damage to a player or battle, choose any number. Each player creates a treasure token. Each player sacrifices a creature. If a source would deal damage to a target to a player or battle this turn, it deals that much +2. So 3/4 first strike haste flyer is really good for 5. That's really good. It's not insane because usually it's 4/4. Flying haste is usually a 4/4, but 3/4 is totally fine. And first strike has synergy with the third effect of amplifying the damage you do to a battle or player, because this will have first strike. It deals damage first, then the other things that deal combat damage after will deal +2. So essentially you're going to be using it with like more creatures that are attacking with you to amplify the damage and potentially go for like a burst kill. Worst case scenario, you attack, you like sacrifice, both players sacrifice a creature, so it's like a flex thing. You can activate any number anyways, so you can choose whatever you want. Sacrificing a creature can be good. Create a treasure token, probably not very useful, but again, it's more like an option, so it's totally fine as well. This card has a lot of flexibility. I think it's good. Sculpted Perfection, 4 mana. When it enters the battlefield, incubate 2. Phyrexians you control get +1/+1. That is not great for 2 mana. Or 4 mana, I mean. 2 mana would be good. Stormclaw Rager, 3 mana. 2/2. Sacrifice another creature or artifact. Put a +1/+1 counter on Stormclaw Rager and draw a card. Activate only the sorcery. Thalia and the Gitrog monster, 4 mana, 4/4 first strike death touch. You may play an additional land on each of your turn. Creatures and non-basic lands your opponent's control enter the battlefield tapped. That's a really good effect for tempo. When Thalia and the Gitrog monster attacks, sacrifice a creature or land, then draw a card. So you have to do that. You have to sacrifice a creature or land. So yeah. But you're drawing a card, and you can play an additional land each turn. So kind of complicated to know if like the effect is going to be that good. The static is good. The creatures and non-basic lands your opponent controls enter tap. That's really good. First strike death touch is a really good combination. 4/4 is fine. Additional land is whatever, and draw a card is usually good. So pretty good. Pretty good card. Yargul and Multani is just an 18/6 for 6. Probably sucks. Zimone and Dina? 3 mana, 3/4. Whenever you draw your second card each turn, target opponent loses 2 life and you gain 2. That's not great. And you can tap, sacrifice another creature, draw a card. You may put a land card from your hand onto the battlefield tapped. If you control 8 or more lands, repeat this process once. Will be a draw 2, essentially. Sacrifice another creature. Sacrifice another creature is... Sacrifice another creature in Sultai. What would you sack? I don't know. But assuming you have built your deck correctly, you sack another creature, you get to ramp. That's fine. And then it also activates the drain, which is good. And it's a 3 mana 3/4, which is good. So this card is probably good in the right deck. Zurgo and Ojutai, 5 mana, 4/4 flying haste, which is really good. Has hexproof as long as it enters the battlefield this turn. Really good. Can't be interacted upon entering, so it's guaranteed damage pretty much. Whenever one or more dragons you control deals combat damage to a player or battle, look at the top 3 of your library, put one of them into your hand, and the rest on the bottom of your library in any random order. You may return one of those dragons to its owner's hand. So, 5 mana, 4/4 haste. You connect to a player battle. Look at top 3 play. You grab one, and then you can also return one of the dragons. Wait, what? You may return one of those dragons. Oh yeah, one of the dragons that dealt damage. Okay, so you can return this card back to your hand if you're scared of it getting removed, which is a really good quality of life like addition. It's a really good flex option in case you know you can deal the 4 again next turn, and you don't want to risk the opponent actually killing it with removal. So that's like really solid. Card advantage, 4 damage, protects itself. Fantastic card. Flywheel Racer is a 2 mana, 3/2 Vigilance. Oh, I'm not going to read that. 3 mana, Convoke 3/2. Okay. Kitesail. Okay. Phyrexian Archivist is a reprint. Realm Breaker, the Invasion Tree. 3 mana artifact, 2 and tap. Target opponent mills 3. Put a land card from their graveyard to the battlefield tapped under your control. It gains if this land would leave the battlefield. Exile it instead of putting it anywhere else. That's really strong, but very expensive because the artifact costs 3. 10 in tap. Sacrifice Realmbreaker, the Invasion Tree. Search your library for any number of Praetor cards. Put them on the battlefield and shuffle. Overall, too expensive. Effect is really strong. Milling your opponent for 3 could be an upside for them, so that's a little bit scary, but most of the time you're getting an extra land for free onto the battlefield, which is ramping you, which is really strong, but the overall cost of this card is way too high to consider, I think. 3 mana, Sword of Once and Future. 3 mana, equipped creature gets +2/+2 protection from blue and black. Equip 2. When it deals combat damage, Surveil 2, you may cast an instant or sorcery spell with mana value 2 or less from your graveyard without paying its mana cost. And instead of putting it back in your graveyard after you cast it, it's exiled. Not great, but all these swords are really heavy tech cards, so they're really good in those matchups, specific, like very specific matchups. So yeah, it's fine. Like it's really good card, but it's not that good because it's very specific. The Surveil and only cast instant or sorcery, like some creature decks that would want the sword are probably not going to be able to use the Surveil is fine either way, but they won't be able to cast for free. Okay, and that is going to do it. Finally. Overall, the multicolor cards, I think, are really good. They're definitely the highlight of the set. A lot of them have really unique effects, really cool combination of cards, since they're combining like 2 other legendaries that exist individually, and now they're combining both of them together to make a new card. So that's really cool. And most of them are really, really good cards. So those are probably what you're going to be looking forward to playing in the format, I think. And I'm also looking forward to playing some of these as well. I think the dragon is really cool. The Quintorius Lore Master is pretty cool. Zimone and Dyna probably pretty decent as well. A lot of stuff that feels like you can kind of build around and maybe find a way to play those cards. But yeah, either way, that's it for me. See ya. If you enjoy my content and would like to help me keep making it, consider joining my Patreon, where you'll gain access to a bunch of bonus videos, written sideboard guides, metagame tier list. So for standard best of 3, for example, ranking all the decks, some game theory guides, as well as deck building guides, and other services depending on the tier, of course. Thank you to all the lovely patrons that are already subscribed, and I hope you all enjoyed the video, and I will see you all in the next one.